Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it is New Year's Eve, and we are looking at this day of basketball that we have all day long for you. In this one, we're going to be looking at the Hawks and the CAVS. Got some betting angles for you, as pretty much both of these teams are decimated by either injury or health and safety protocols for that COVID going around, as we all know. And so we want to make sure you stay on thelines.com, playpicks.com. Check out who's going to be in and out of those lineups up until game time. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and player props. And do like and subscribe to that page. We got a couple other videos for you today, including that player props video with a gift card opportunity for you that you do need to be subscribed to the page to be eligible to win by jumping in the comments. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, so there are a couple afternoon games. We'll just mention the lines there, but by the time you're watching this, they might have already tipped off. We are talking about Hawks and CAVS in this one, and the Hawks started as underdogs plus 1.5, I believe, and now they're 1 point favorites. I guess people agreeing with my logic here that they can do they have a much better chance against this Cleveland team than they did in consecutive games against the Bulls. So shorthanded. The total is 215 right now. We'll circle back to that game, but yeah, at 1 p.m. Eastern, we got Suns at the Celtics. Suns are 4 point favorites in that one. Then at 3 p.m. Eastern, Bulls minus 4.5 at Pacers. And then we get into the night games. Mavs -1 at Kings, rematch there. The Heat are minus 3.5 at the Rockets. We're going to break that one down in a video and educate you on some obscure Miami players who are, including Mario Chalmers, who's coming out of retirement for this. Shout out Mario. The Raptors, now back closer to full strength, are -7 at home against the Clippers. The Knicks are -4 at the Thunder. The Spurs +6 at the Grizz there, total of 226 in that game. Wolves are +11 at Jazz, still missing Karl Anthony Towns and others. And then the Blazers and the Lakers in the Struggle Bus Bowl to cap off 2021. Lakers are 5.5 point favorites at home. I guess they have to be, considering how bad both those teams have been. But Hawks, CAVS here, and I know every time people have doubted the CAVS this year, they have come through, and it is a dangerous proposition. It's not something we're saying go hard on this, but it is my most confident bet on New Year's Eve because I think they could sustain all the losses on the wing, of all the defensive. We talked about how they traded defense for offense when Allen and Mobley were out, in and out. They can't sustain losing both Garland and Ricky Rubio. Rubio's now done for the season with an ACL. They know they can't. That's why apparently they're going to trade for Rajon Rondo. I don't know if that's going to fix all their issues, but they just don't have anybody to run the offense now at this point. And their defensive rating has actually been far worse without Rubio. Josh can dive into that a little bit more there, but it's the offensive rating that hurts so bad without Garland, who is a really strong most improved player of the year candidate. I mean, he still is. He's only on the COVID list. He'll be back in probably 10 days. But in this game without him, I do favor the Hawks, despite their missing double-digit guys still due to COVID. They got Trae Young back for these back-to-back games against the Bulls, and their offense just resurrected overnight. Like Josh said in one of those episodes, if you have Trae Young, he is an NBA offense. And now he's got Clint Capella to run pick and roll with, and he's got Cam Reddish, who's playing very confident. Those guys combined for 51 points per game, 11.5 assists per game in those shootouts with Chicago, as Atlanta's went from night to day in terms of their offensive rating in those two contests. So now they go up against a CAVS team that still leads the East in defensive rating, but when they don't have Jared Allen, it's a different story on defense. I mean, first of all, they go from a 103 East leading rating to about 111. And Allen is questionable tonight due to conditioning. He did not play last night. This is a back-to-back situation for Cleveland. Last night, they gave up 110 points to a struggling Wizards team. They really struggled on offense, getting 93 points. And I've talked about in some previous episodes how the CAVS have gotten it done at home, but they've been facing some really shorthanded teams. Like they've really had the luck of the draw in terms of their matchups with the Heat, the Bucks, the Raptors recently. And I mean, they once again get a shorthanded Hawks team here, but Atlanta does have its two most essential players. It is now used to playing with backups on the wing, Skylar Mays, Malcolm Hill, etc. And Cam Reddish is thriving, and they're going to be hungry after getting handed by Chicago, which is the number one offense in the league, let's remember, over the past 2 weeks. So facing a team that does not necessarily shoot the lights out, I like Atlanta to pull out this win for sure. And that's where I'd be focusing. I'm not even going to look at the total necessarily. I think just the Hawks win in Cleveland here with the rest advantage.
Yeah, that's my best bet for this one as well. Depending where you find it right now, you could actually get the Hawks as dogs and potentially get their money line at close to even money. But for the most part on FanDuel and DraftKings specifically, they're actually favored by about a point and a half with a money line at about minus 110, 112 in that area. So I think you still just go for that money line wherever you're looking for it and you expect them to win. And it's really about the backcourts to me tonight. I'm not taking much. Look, the Hawks are, you have to sort of reset what your expectations are of a team, depending on who's in and out of the lineups. That's the only way to bet the NBA during the regular season, especially right now with the way that things are going with health and safety protocols. So with that in mind, there's not much precedence ahead of tonight for the lineups that these two teams are going to be throwing at each other. But what we do know is Cam Reddish is starting at, let's say, 2 or 3, and Trae Young is starting at the 1, Clint Capella is starting at the 5. Right there, you have 3 starting NBA players. One that's one of the best point guards in the league. Another that's an up and coming, wing player who's been very hot as of late. And that's going to be what Atlanta relies upon in this one. Right? They played Chicago their last 2. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan are greater than most other twosomes that you would throw at them in the league, especially this year. And definitely was the case for Atlanta. This is, this Cleveland team is coming in just completely banged up. You've got, Kevin Pangos starting alongside Isaac Okoro. Right. And so what they've done this season is basically not play very much. But, you look at Pangos has played about 6.5 minutes while appearing in 16 games this season. Obviously, coaches DNPs all over the place. And then you've got Okoro, who's averaged about 9 minutes, about 25 appearances. But, as your 2 guard, he's shooting 44% from the field, 31 from 3, and 74 from the line. Obviously, not on very large shooting sample sizes, but still, it's not like he's your traditional 2 guard that's going to come out and drop a ton of points for you. And, on the other side of the ball, however many points they score, as the Hawks showed that they could play at that fast pace with the Bulls. They couldn't hang with them. They didn't if they had their wing players like even Bogdanovich or Collins or Herter or anybody was available in that game aside from just Trae and Cam Reddish, it probably would have been a little bit more successful than getting blown out by double digits both times. But they still scored about 110 each time, right? Because they're still be able to put up those points on offense. Because as you mentioned, Trae Young is a walking offense, and he's got the ball in his hands around 80 to 85% of the time, which is in the top 5 of the league. So it's like the 11 assists or so that he's averaging in those last 3 or 4 games makes sense. You still got guys like Skylar Mays who, whatever you want to say about him, he's going to put it up. He's not afraid to shoot, and that's kind of what you need, at least, is guys that if Trae's going to pass you the ball, they're not afraid to put it up. So I think Atlanta, I know what I'm getting a little bit more right now than Cleveland. I don't expect much from Cleveland, as you mentioned. Not only is their offensive rating just plummet without Rubio and Garland, their defensive rating goes way up without Rubio, who had aside from Mobley, had the best defensive individual rating on the team this season. Has been an incredible, standing about 6'3", 6'4", been a really, really good defensive point guard for them this year at the head of that defense. So I think at this point, you feel good about Atlanta. You feel good about Trae Young, and you don't know what you're getting from Cleveland. Evan Mobley might be out there doing his thing with Kevin Love, as they were the 2 leading scorers last night. But on the second leg of a back-to-back with a bunch of G Leaguers in versus Trae Young, Cam Reddish, and Clint Capella, I got to back the Hawks all day, every single day.
Yeah, and all season it's been the case with Cleveland. If you can get quality 3-point looks and knock them down, then you should be able to score against this defense, because they're forced to pack the paint if they're going to play 2 7-footers at the same time. And Atlanta, in their last 3, shooting 40% from deep, and on the road they actually have the 3rd best percentage from deep, 38.5. Trae has not really gotten on track yet from deep since coming off the COVID list, but he could obviously erupt there. I would look at his combined points assist prop at 41.5. That's very high, but he posted a 40% usage rate last time out in Chicago. They just need him to be chucking at a necessity right now, given the state of their roster. And I mean, the Cavs, if they don't have Jared Allen, maybe they'll guard the 3-point line better. But without him, they gave up 68 paint points last night to Washington, which is not necessarily the best team attacking the paint. Then if that's the case, Atlanta expect them to adjust by running more pick and roll and getting Capella involved after he went for 18-15 last time out. And with the Cavs, again, they have won 4 of their last 5 at home, or 4 straight, in fact, but they've all been very circumstantial. Prior to that, they lost 4 of their previous 5 at home. The reason they've been covering against the spread is because they've been overlooked all season. They're no longer overlooked. I mean, the fact that they are now favorites in some points shows that they're getting the treatment of being a top team in the East. But I think with Atlanta, you're going to see some positive regression from Trey and others shooting after they struggled at times against Chicago, which is a true contender. I'm not trying to throw that much water on the Cavs in terms of their ability to contend, but just without their starting backcourt and with their big man coming off COVID, where we just don't know, when guys in their first game back, how much the disease is going to hit them in terms of their performance, or how much rust or how much conditioning issues there are. I definitely favor the Hawks with that rest advantage and that key point there with Jared Allen, how he's feeling.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, Jared Allen's only missed last game against the Wiz because of conditioning is what he was listed at. And I'm sure that's, impacted by COVID to some degree. But yeah, that is a really good point about not knowing exactly how guys are even going to return. And a quick segue actually off your point about Trae Young and knowing what he's going to do and having Clint Capella able to roll, off of him. He's actually got some really good success as of late against Cleveland, especially in his last 4 versus them. He's actually dropped 11 assists in all 4 of those games, 11 plus. So I think you consider, him tonight as well. I mean, you already know whether or not he has other guys in the lineup, he's going to have the ball in his hands. But as far as, him getting to his props tonight, which obviously we still need to see what those are going to be. A couple guys still questionable for both teams. So we don't have all the player props up, but I would look at Young's assists and points combined tonight if they're at a reasonable place, because he's going to have the ball in his hands, he's going to be shooting, and he's going to be passing. And that's really what we know. So that is all the time we have for this one as we try to make sense of what's going on in the NBA right now with all those players in and out of the lineup. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to the page. Got another couple videos up for you today, including that player props video with a gift card opportunity. And until we see you next, Happy New Year and happy betting.